Hi and welcome to Herbal Talks. My name is Carmela and I'm from Örtfabriken, the herbal factory in Swedish. And today we will invite you to talk about the heart vibrations and herbs for the heart. And I have a very special guest with me
Hi.
today. Please tell me something about yourself.
I call myself a modern day medicine woman, and I work mainly with medicines that we can find in nature, but also inside of our own bodies. So I was guided from living a big city life for most of my life, and being very, very stressed and disconnected from my body, to be guided out to the forest in south of Sweden, where I now live according to the elements of the earth and trying to live more cyclical as well. And yeah, I run healing retreats here and gather mainly women for to come back to your own essence, basically. And it's also a path that I have to remind myself of walking every day. And yeah, so basically, I work with breath work, with herbal medicine, with cacao, with embodied movement and cyclical living. And yeah, I live here with my dog and just really, really loving life. Just came back from Guatemala, where I live in the winters, where I study everything that has to do with cacao and also sit in ceremonies, gather new songs to come back and sing in Sweden, and also building a retreat and a conscious eco community there with some friends. So yeah, I'm a adventurous and curious, positive
Fantastic.
person who loves nature, basically.
Thank you. Fantastic to hear. And you said that you're
Mm,
building an eco
yes,
community
exactly.
in Guatemala.
So that is a really, really big lake, really powerful. It's surrounded by active volcanoes, actually. So it's kind of like a portal, and it's very intense energies there. We're building in a small, small village with no roads. You can only access it with boat. It's called Haibalito. And while I'm there, while we're building and it's not ready and we don't have our community, I live in a village called Pasacap, which is between San Marcos and Sununa, for people who have been there, as which is slightly more social, because where we're building is nothing else going on. So it's kind of isolating to be there if I'm alone. I can do it in short periods, but I crave community. That's why I'm there. So until everyone has gathered there, I live in a different village. That's, yeah, a little bit more happening.
It will be so interesting to follow your path, and I really, really hope that I will be able to visit you. I've been traveling a lot to Central America in my life.
It's so magical. It's
Fantastic
really, really
countries.
magical. But what's also so nice about having my roots in
Yeah.
Sweden is that now when I came home, I just came home or back here on Monday, and I'm like, I was crying. I was like, I'm so happy to be here, and I can drink the water, and I can do this, and look at the herbs. The dandelions are everywhere, and so I don't know, both of them have really unique. They're so different,
Yeah.
so it's really
Yeah.
nice to travel in between worlds. I never get bored, really.
When we started to communicate, we also mentioned this that it's so important to get back to your roots, your original roots, and feel that maybe feeling at our ease in our native country, Sweden. Maybe the big city, Stockholm, for example, and that it is possible to change this relationship,
Because we're talking
native
about
place.
following your heart today and listening to your heart, and really how we can connect more with our heart chakra. That was one of the things, right? I always said I always wanted to live abroad. As soon as I was out of school, I left Sweden, but then I was always like back and forth. I was really like anti. But when I was living in LA to study herbs and meditate with herbs and communicate with herbs, I got so strong visions of going back to my home country and really connect with nature there. And I realized I haven't really done that. Like when I was younger, I was a child, I was spending my summers with my grandmother, and she had a beautiful little country house by the water, and she helped me to connect with nature. And that's like my happiest childhood memories. But then I shut it off. I was like so busy working in fashion and living in all the big cities and partying and doing that whole thing, that I was so disconnected from the nature in my body, but also around me. So maybe that's why I didn't, like we were speaking about before, didn't really enjoy Sweden, because Sweden to me was Stockholm, where I was living. And it's a very hectic city, a very stressed city.
And also, when you take a step away from the modern city, you discover that Sweden and the Nordic countries has nature, pure nature. which is not so common. Like
Exactly.
if
I
we
have
go
a
a
lot
little
of
bit
guests here
south
in
in
the summers
Europe.
because I have retreats and also I rent it out sometimes. And I have a lot of German guests and a lot of people from Switzerland and Holland. And they're like, oh my God, it's so much space. I was like, Germany, you have forests too. They're like, no, not in the same way. We don't. So I think we also take it for granted because I grew up like
Yeah.
this and I haven't seen the
Oh,
beauty in it and the magic of having so much space around me.
yeah. And walking this nature way, I think for me, the revelation, I was doing a lot of meditation
Mhm.
before. I had an
Yes.
Indian guru, and we can talk about that more. And went more into the herbal path. After a while, understanding that this is the way of the heart. It's been quite a revelation for me. Can you please tell me a little bit more your perceptions of the heart and the heart
Yeah, I would
chakra?
say really living and being grateful and being like in the present moment. That is connecting with the heart. And for me, the heart is like the bridge between the spirit realm and this realm. So it's like where the upper chakras and the lower chakras are meeting. So yeah, to walk the path of the heart means to me that I every day check in with my heart and I ask my heart like what would feel the most nourishing for me today, and how can I honor you? How can I listen a little bit more to you? So I wake up and I look at my to-do list and it's endless, right? So if I would just follow the path of my mind, I would just sit and like never end the work. But following the path of the heart is like, okay, but what would my heart want to do? Okay, I want to actually go out and pick all of the dandelions before they disappear, and I want to make like my herbal tinctures and teas so I can have them in the autumn and in the winter, for example. That's something that makes my heart like really get excited. Okay, so then at least I spend 30 minutes or 1 hour if I have a day now, right now, doing that. Or maybe another time it's like, oh, really singing with some friends because they're around and maybe they're not going to be around later. So really taking these opportunities in the present moment and seeing the beauty in what is around me right now, because so many times I've been in my life like, no, I just have to do this. The thing is, the to-do list never ends and the mind can easily win. So it's important for me at least to take active practice every day to tap into my heart and call in the gratitude for everything I have, but also like what can I do today to honor my heart and listen to my heart, and then make sure, even if it's just a baby step, even if it's just 5 minutes doing something in that direction. So yeah, being more present.
I haven't thought of it exactly that way. So then therefore I ask you, will the heart always choose enjoyment or happiness, or
No,
what
I
does the
wouldn't
heart want?
say that. So, I mean, I have this saying that I love that when I was studying breathwork, I think my teacher David was saying it like, you need to feel it to heal it. So I also do a lot of breath work. So I allow myself really actively, almost on a daily basis, to feel all the feelings. And maybe one day I actually just want to cry. And then I don't numb that like I would have done back in the day. Like, oh my God, I'm so sad. How can I numb this? How can I drink wine? Or how can I go out on Instagram or go on a date or whatever to like numb this feeling of sadness? I'm really good at allowing myself to feel whatever needs to be felt, and I move that energy. So what can I do? Go out in nature, maybe hug a tree, maybe I do a shaking practice, maybe I go out and scream or cry and just like let it out. So no, it doesn't have to be beautiful and pretty and joyful and just picking dandelions. It can also be just laying in my bed and crying, but breathing and like moving through the emotions, or maybe making a difficult call if it was like about me not setting my boundaries or something. To do whatever my heart needs to do, wants to do to be happy. So maybe you have to do hard things to be able to make your
Mhm.
heart happy, if that makes sense.
You have
Mhm.
mentioned now a few times gratitude, and say a little bit more how you
So when I
work with
started with the
gratitude.
gratitude practice, I was like doing the gratitude journal, like writing 1 or 2 or 3 pages. But I feel like it's so implemented in my system now because I've been doing it for so many years. So I don't, it's not like when I wake up and normally I drink my cacao and have my morning practice, then I just look around me and I see my dog and I'm like, oh, I'm so grateful for you. And maybe the sun is out or maybe the rain is raining. And now because I'm like trying to grow things, I'm like, oh, thank you, rain. Like just thanking the elements and whatever is present. Like, oh my God, thank you for this house. I have a house. And all, just taking a moment to feeling and seeing what's around me. But if that's a hard thing in the beginning, maybe just writing on a piece of paper, like I'm grateful for da 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 da. So maybe I was like angry at someone, but like, oh, thank you so much for the lessons and the mirroring and for making me grow, and to try and like move the energy around, um, energy where I felt stuck. And one of
Yeah.
the big things, like, right, so I've been so
Mm.
angry with my parents for a big part of my life, and like I don't feel like you were present, and da 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 da. And now I'm like, I can switch it around and like, thank you. I know you did the best that you could with the tools that you had, and thank you, because it allowed myself to be this independent person who has this drive to do all of these things that I'm doing now. And if I didn't get the wounds that I got, I would not have searched actively the path of healing. I would have probably not maybe found the path of herbalism or of breathwork or plant medicines or whatever it is. So in a way I can like, okay, I wouldn't have been who I am, and I love who I am, and I don't want to be anyone else. So thank you for having me go through all of this. I don't know, yeah, to to move even the biggest wounds
Yeah.
around and to just see it in a different way. It's been so helpful to me to get out of the anger and the bitterness and the resentment.
You
Another thing
feel.
that's really good for the heart chakra is forgiveness, right? And if you can't forgive someone for them, like forgive them for yourself, for your own peace, so you can move on and be happy. So then we have herbs to help.
True. Yeah. Do you
I
see
see
the
them as
herbs
my
as
allies.
tools?
They're my friends, and I just, in a community, maybe there's some people that you're more close to, and then there's some people that you haven't connected with. I see them as like a community. It's a family, and I haven't yet, because it's such a big. I think it's a life's work, or many lives' works, to get to know all of the herbs. And when I moved to Central America, I'm like, oh my god, all the herbs are different. Now I have to like start to study them in the States, and then I came back to Sweden, and I have to learn
Yeah.
all the names and what grows here in Swedish. So it's like a whole world. But I see them as friends, the ones that is, yeah, and some are super close, and some are a little bit more distant that I come and go to, So
But even though there are different herbs, of course, in different part of the world, according to the nature, like what's growing there, there's always like this set of herbs, like herbs for relaxation, herbs for immunity, and of course, what we're talking
mhm,
about today, herbs
yes,
for the heart. Would you like to mention some of your favorite
I would love to. I mean, obviously,
herbs for
cacao
the
is not an
heart?
herb; it's a plant or a fruit. But I think it counts into herbalism in the plant queendom. And so I've been working with cacao for many, many years now. And when I went to my first cacao ceremony, it just blasted my heart open. We were sitting in front of a fire, and it was a Guatemalan medicine man and his daughter, Tata Pedro and Nana Marina. She's still alive, he isn't. And we were just singing songs, and they were sharing stories about cacao. And I was like, wow, this was the most beautiful thing. And that led me on this path to actually go to Guatemala, where I started to source cacao and so on. The first second I drank it, I didn't fully connect with the taste, because it's really bitter when you don't drink it in the more Western way. But I felt something. I felt something in my heart, and like I shared before, I was really disconnected from my body. I was really stressed, and I didn't even know that I was stressed, because I was so used to being like on full speed and drinking a lot of caffeine, and had so much hormonal problems and a lot of stress symptoms and belly issues, neck pain, like so much inflammation in my body. And yeah, something happened with the cacao, and I was like, I have to go see where this is from. I bought a few blocks at the ceremony, and I started to first eat a little piece before the meals, because it's like a bitter, right? So it helps with digestion and IBS and bloating and stuff. And then I started to drink it, and I was like, wow, I'm not craving coffee anymore. And I was really addicted to caffeine, but it gave me this calm in my body, but still some sort of alertness. So I was like, this is amazing. And actually, within one moon cycle, within 1 month, my hormonal acne disappeared. I didn't have pain anymore. Sometimes I
Wow.
could faint from like my cramps after I stopped birth control, which I unfortunately was on for like 15 years or more, because I didn't know better. But that's a different podcast. So anyway, I had all of these things, and I stopped coffee, which also helps with hormones, right? And then after a few weeks or even months, I started to feel what my heart was communicating to me. Like I was sharing before, it's like get out in nature, don't sit in front of the screen all day, like have fun. For me, it is a heart medicine, right? It helps to open up our heart chakra, which can sound like woo woo. What does that mean? But for me, it was like I can hear what my heart wants for the first time, basically in my life. That was such a revelationary
Mm.
feeling for me, and I think that led me on the path that I'm on now, basically, which, yeah, what's a life of more freedom, of more nature, being outside, more connecting with the plants. So it is a heart. It's amazing for grief, it's amazing for self-love, for love, for everything that has to do with the heart. It's even a heart medicine if your physical heart is weak. But
So cacao is also
yes,
like
exactly.
strengthening the
Yeah, and
heart.
the reason why we get energy from it is
Hmm.
because the heart
Hmm.
starts to beat faster, so we get more oxygen basically in the blood. So it's like a natural, holistic energy high versus like caffeine that works on the nervous system and gives you jitters. And now I don't want to compare coffee and cacao because they're so two completely different things. But for me, it really changed my life that I could stop drinking coffee when my nervous system was already out of whack. So that was just one of the
Hmm.
positive benefits. You know, it has the antioxidants, the iron, the magnesium that helps our bodies relax and restore, and it's an aphrodisiac. So before, when I
Hmm.
was single and I used to date a lot when I was living in LA, and I would drink like a glass of wine or two before I would go out on a date because to take the, you know, the edge off of being nervous. And then I started to drink cacao and I was like, wow, this kind of, it's not at all the same, but it just opens up my heart so I can be really authentic and be myself without even feeling nervous. It really
Yeah.
helps, at least me, to tap into, yeah,
I'm
my heart and my authentic expression and my,
I haven't tried cacao like in a ceremonial way yet. I'm like waiting for this time to come to me. I'm not forcing it. But of course, I'm thinking like now, like one of the most famous herbs for the heart, hawthorn, which we must mention. And of course, it's a berry. In Swedish, it's hagtorn. So it's the red berry. It grows everywhere. And we planted a lot of bushes during the 70s in Sweden. So you can actually find hawthorn everywhere. And it's a fantastic medicine. You can use both the flowers in the springtime and then the berries in the autumn. But then when you talk about herbs for the heart, it seems to me, I haven't gone that deep into that, but it supports your heart on an emotional level, of course. But also in a most evidently on a physical level as well. So this talking about, you know, that you can break your heart broken, it's not only metaphorically, it can really happen, and it does happen, that out of grief, out of sorrow, out of not listening to your heart, you can like your heart can get weak. And with these herbs, like also that you are mentioning with the cacao, that then you can
yes, and you can
help your
combine
heart
them.
heal.
I mean, you can take a little tincture of maybe hawthorn and drink a cup of cacao. Yeah, so you can actually see on your physical posture if your heart is broken or if you have weak energy in the heart chakra. So, for example, people who are walking a little bit more hunched, maybe trying to protect their heart, you know, with their body, more or less. So, it really, if our hearts break, I mean, it will have physical impacts inside of our bodies, but also many times you can see it on a person.
Wow, wow. I had like a learning many, many years ago when I had my first child, when I felt such a pressure in everyday life. I felt that I was constantly walking like
Mm.
bent a little bit forward, like feeling like this will give me like, and that's also like this posture. And then I said, okay, no, then I can at least like fool my body to feel relaxed and secure, like going a little bit backwards and opening up. And so every time I get hit by stress, I try to like at least like, okay, think how, what are you showing your body, like relax,
Yeah, and
easy,
that
you don't
also
have
just
to
taking maybe
worry.
one or two or three really deep breaths all the way down to the belly to activate the vagus nerve and to really tap into the rest and
Hmm.
digest system. So when you're feeling rushed, just I get asked a lot, like,
Yeah.
what's your tip that everyone can do? And it's just like take one deep breath, and if you can remind yourself many times a day to do that, it's going to
Yeah.
have a huge impact on our health because we live. really rushed society, and
Yeah.
we're always on the go, many of us.
So we mentioned
I
cacao
have
and we mentioned hawthorn. But does any other herbs come to your
Yeah,
mind
so
when you
basically
think about the
I
heart?
love vanilla, and like I grew up with the processed vanilla white powder, and I thought that was vanilla, but no, like the pure vanilla bean. If you boil that in water, it makes the most epic tea, like self-love, nourishing, soothing, like self-love tea. And it's kind of pricey, right? Because vanilla is not cheap. But if you really want to like treat yourself and to have a self-love day, for example, make a tea with vanilla. So that's just one I wanted to mention. And what I really want to talk about today, which it's both for the root chakra. Normally, I mention it for the root chakra, but it's actually because it's green and the heart color of the heart chakra is green, right? So, and because I just came back to Sweden, it's the nettles everywhere, nässlor, and it's actually also really good for the heart.
Yeah.
Firstly, because it's so nutrient and has basically all the vitamins and minerals that we need. So when I was in herbalism school, my teacher Marisha, she was like, if you just meet a client, just tell them to drink nettles every day for a week or for a month on empty stomach, and then they can come back and see if they still have their issues. Like it's really a powerful. We just think it's a weed. And people want to get rid of it because and it stings
Mm.
us. So I didn't like it as a child. But if you and that shows it has boundaries. So if you drink nettles, it helps you actually to set boundaries, which can be really good for your heart. So nettles stings you if you don't treat it with respect. So you
Hmm.
might actually have the same energetics in your body that you will sting people who don't respect you. So people who need to work on boundaries, they can drink nettle. And it's just so good for basically everything in your body. It helps with arthritis and inflammation. And so that's maybe not one that I would recommend you to drink specifically if you have a problem with your heart chakra, but I would recommend everyone to drink nettles every day because it's a nourishing herb that just gives your body, just floods your body with nutrients. So when we do that, when we nourish ourselves, then we can easier heal as well. So we just give the body the right conditions, basically.
Great suggestion. I try to use the herbs as cures, like using them for a certain time period, like 3 weeks. And I did that this spring. I'm right now in Croatia, living in Croatia. So, of course, the spring is a bit earlier than in Sweden. And it's been great. It's really taking away everything, like the longing for coffee, feeling like the bumps on the skin is going away. It's some reassurance, some like feeling of being
Really is
held
because it
by
does
someone.
nourish us on such a deep level, and then we feel held, and then we feel supported, and then many of our symptoms disappear, right? So it's really a magical one that's so underrated. But I heard you can just drink nettle infusion, and then you don't have to drink your green juices or all of that stuff that maybe has imported vegetables and a lot of expensive stuff. So if you have
True,
nettles, which
true.
at least in Sweden they grow everywhere, I would suggest them go out and pick the baby ones and put on water and let it sit overnight and drink on an empty stomach in the morning and just experiment like you did for 3 weeks. Or it is a nourishing herb, which means it's kind of safe to drink for as long as you want to. But if that makes it like a doable goal to drink it for 21 days, you can do so. I normally feel when my body's craving it. It's great for
Yeah.
allergies too. I want to say I came back here and everyone seems to have a lot of issues with allergies. It's a lot of pollen here. So I do, then nettles is amazing.
Yeah. And sorry, do you put, when you do it in the evening, you take your nettles and do you pour
So
hot water or cold water? What do you
it's a
prefer
good
to do?
question. Like I was taught that nettles is basically the only herb that you can put cold water on, and it's like it tastes better and it still extracts the nutrients. But when I that works for me with dried nettles, but when I do it here with my fresh, I don't feel like it's extracting as much. Like it doesn't have this rich color in the morning. So I actually put on warm water right now. So I think there's no right or wrongs really, from what I know. Uh, what you can do
Yeah,
is you make a
for
second
sure.
infusion, and then you can use that as a hair rinse or water your plants with. They all love nettle water. So it's just so much you can do with it. So versatile. You can make nettle pesto, nettle soup.
Good
So
ideas.
what linden about lindblomma and the leaves? That's very here in and it's really because it's the word I can't say in English or in Swedish, mucilaneous. Can you pronounce
Oh, now,
something like that? Great.
mucilagna.
So it's great for to moisten our tissues if we're dry in the throat, for example, or dry in our yoni or dry anywhere. then it's great. But it also protects the heart with this slime or whatever you say, with with this soft tissue. So if you feel like your heart is breaking, if you're really sad, if you're going through something, linden can really be this beautiful ally to soothe your heart, really. Yeah, soothe the heartache. And I love to talk about plants that you can actually find where we live,
Yeah.
and we can go out and pick them, and because it grows a lot here in Sweden, that would be something to try. And that goes well with
Yeah.
cacao too. You can make a linden tea and then put your cacao in there, and it becomes extra. Yeah,
And did you say that you
both.
use the
You can use
leaves
both.
or the flowers?
Yeah.
Both. Mhm. And I think the linden flowers are, I've been chasing them. Sometimes I just lose the, the blooming time. And I think in the middle of the Sweden, they will
Thing
bloom
like that. Probably a
mid-June,
little bit
more or
earlier
less.
down here in Skåne. It seems like we're a few
Yeah.
weeks before.
And interesting. Then, of course, all the herbs can have different actions. They can like strengthen or smooth or support or heal your heart, these herbs that we have mentioned. And this brings us into the topic of having hard experiences from
Mhm.
using the herbs for the heart. I haven't tried cacao yet. I don't really know how that works on me, on my organism. But I have used a lot of other herbs. Like I used them for a long time just to see how they affect me. I do them like maybe one by one. For example, roses or saffron, which is also like something used for the heart. And then I also used a lot of angelica, archangelica, also for the heart with the intention of like, how will this affect my heart? Other herbs as well. And when I have used them, I have had really tough experiences. I have some idea of this, why it happens. So maybe do you want to share anything if you have experienced it yourself or on other people?
So I, for some reason, I am a very sensitive person, but my body's maybe because it's been shut off for a big part of my life, but my body's not that sensitive. So I can drink a lot of cacao, I can take a lot of herbs before I feel something. So I have not had any uncomfortable reactions, but it depends what you mean with uncomfortable. If uncomfortable is actually feeling the grief or feeling the pain, like, yeah, then yes, I felt that too. But I kind of want to feel that because that means I'm releasing it, I'm transforming it and transmuting it. So yes, I've had a lot of people feel a lot of feelings working with the heart opening and heart healing plant allies. But to me, that is a good thing because maybe you haven't allowed yourself to feel anything in your life. Maybe you've been shutting off your feelings and you've just been a human doer, just doing and doing and maybe following what everyone else thinks is the right way to do. And when you actually drink these herbs or eat the herbs or however you do, maybe it's the first time in your life where you're actually, I'm not talking about you now, but just in general, maybe you're actually allowing yourself to feel all of these hard feelings, which can be hard. And it's good then to have a support system that you maybe work with someone, if that's a therapist or a coach or a sister circle or just a friend, so you have someone to process it with. But yes, it's normal, and I think that's the point. The feelings, feel it so we can heal it. So it's not like we spoke about in the beginning. Maybe you don't work with the heart heal like herbs just to be happy. To what do you need to reach happiness? So it's not band-aids, root cause, and we're like allow ourselves. I have this pain in my shoulder. Oh, it's because I haven't been listening to my body for the past 20 years, and I've just kept doing and sitting
Yeah.
in front of this computer stressing, and not honoring my body. Like, yeah. So I feel it allows things to come up to the surface so we can start to take different decisions, set boundaries, have conversations, start to live in a different way, start to live from the heart. That's super hard. Like, I had to leave a lot of things behind to live this life now. It wasn't all glitz and glams. It's been a lot of tears, a lot of fear, and just like, oh my God, what am I doing? I'm so alone. I'm doing all of this by myself. And but I had to do all of these things to make my heart happy, to make myself fully happy. It gives us tools or
Yeah.
medicines to really be able to sit with the discomfort, maybe. When I know I go through difficult times and I drink my cup of cacao, I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm so grateful. Thank you." It's like you and me now. We can like have this bond. I feel supported. And I think that's That's what many of them are for, to make us feel supported that we're not alone, because we're not. We're in
Yeah.
nature and we're never alone because we're a part of nature. And that's what the plants help me with, to just feel supported and held. And
Yeah.
know I have friends that can help me with my healing, whatever it is I'm going through. So, how do you feel?
Yeah. I think I'm really like trying to see. I'm thinking like on one hand, definitely like all this. I've been thinking that maybe it's this huge river of sadness just coming out, and then it will be difficult to handle it. And also, when I've been experiencing this, is when I have used the herbs for a certain time. Like as I said before, like doing a cure. This was not the purpose, but I took it like maybe for 3 weeks, and then I started to feel like the same heavy, heavy, deep, deep feelings of. It's not even.
Hmm.
It's more like depression, which I never usually feel. So that's such. It's like I'm bringing something up that I'm not like not at all like I haven't understood fully. I will need to like devote more time and also have the courage to do it, because then of course you also feel like, oh, I cannot go into these feelings too much. Like I have to still get up next morning. I would love to see how cacao will affect me, but that's maybe also why I'm a bit like, okay, I must do it when I really
Hmm.
am able to handle it. And maybe it's also a matter of dosage. That's also like you said, like you need to know your body, like how sensitive is it,
Hmm.
how much can it take. And also when I'm using other like nerve relaxant herbs like motherwort, hjärtstilla, I can
Wow.
take like 1 or 2 drops of tincture, not more. Otherwise, I would just need to lay down and wait for 12
Yeah, we're
hours
all
to
so
pass.
different.
Other
Yeah, and
persons are
that's also the
sensitive
thing,
to
both
other
dosage,
herbs.
but also working with them at least for one cycle, or like you're doing 3 weeks, because us women, we're cyclical beings. So maybe one herb is great for you during your moon time, but then you're going to react completely different when you're ovulating. So it's really nice to, like, when you're getting to know the herbs, work with them at least, what I think, for like 28 days or 1 month, and journal every day. Like, how do you feel today? What comes up today? What memories? What feelings? What are you feeling? And that way you get to really know the plants before you also start to mix them up, and before you start to make tinctures with them, maybe. Or if you just maybe start to drink the tea, if you're a sensitive person, maybe a tincture is even too strong. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's so many different ways of working with herbs, but to really get to know them on a deeper level, you have to kind of work with them for at least 1 month.
Yeah. And I will soon ask you some wrapping up questions. But before we do that, I'm just curious. Have you
Not
used
so much. When I
motherwort?
was in herbalism school, I did work with it for like 1 month. And at the time, it didn't really resonate with me. So I never really came back to it. I have it here. I have a bag of motherwort, but I don't know. Maybe this is calling on me.
I have used it from time to time, and I think it's remarkable. Many people love motherwort. They think it's like fantastic. It's something like I mentioned, you have to be quite careful. You cannot overdose motherwort. Also, when you harvest it, like if you need to grow it in a garden, but if you harvest it, you have to take a leaf like this to make an infusion.
Mhm.
You shouldn't like go with a super infusion. Don't do that. And I think it's remarkable how you can like help your heart to not like explode if you hear something like you have to face the your kids coming home from school being sad and something difficult has happened. Then the heart can help you like to handle that better, because maybe you want to be a support, you don't want to be too emotional either. And that's where I think like the mother word is really like a mother, like embracing you, and then you can be like
Mhm.
giving the same support
So beautiful.
further.
I think I'm gonna go make a cup after our call.
Yeah. Great. Maybe for when you're holding your
Mhm.
sessions and
Yeah, because I
inviting
also
people
feel I
also.
host a lot of cacao
Yeah.
ceremonies, which is so beautiful. But I've been feeling the calling for the last year to do ceremonies more around the native herbs. So maybe have a mugwort ceremony, for example, and yeah, maybe even motherwort if we become friends, and to really connect with what actually grows here that can have similar effects on the heart. Yes.
Good choice. And okay, so wrapping up, we've been talking about the cacao, thorn, linden, and motherwort. You have also mentioned during our whole talk, like ways how you can support your heart, like tools or a technique.
Well, what I would do to connect with my heart on a daily basis is to, yeah, tap into my heart, like ask myself, what do I need today? What would feel the most nourishing for my heart, for my body, and then do something, even if it's only 5 minutes, no excuses. 5 minutes to do something, and then you can follow your mind the rest of the day. To start every day with gratitude, and as often as you can along the day, use the tool of gratitude. If something feels annoying or someone is annoying, can you turn it around for, like, thank you for being a mirror for me, thank you for helping me grow, thank you for the lessons, thanking, yeah, thank you. Gratitude, forgiveness, it's not something I have to work on every day, but when it's time, I really try to forgive, even if I still have some resentment, just for my own sake, because it takes so much energy to be angry or sad. But breath work is my favorite. Obviously, cacao and breath work is what I do, because for so many reasons. But it helps us release stress, anxiety, fear, so we can really then be a more clear channel in that sense. And it's easier to call in joy and love and abundance if we're not stressed out and just running around and trying to survive, right? But also, it's easy when we breathe like this, we turn down the volume of the frontal lobe of the brain, which means that we can access the other parts of the brain, but also our body and our heart. So if we're people who are super rushed and we're just in fight or flight all day, if we breathe with this transformational breathwork technique that I teach, there's other breathwork techniques too, which are great. Um, then you can really actually feel what your heart is communicating with you, and you can feel what your body is communicating to you. So breathwork is a easy, beautiful way that you can connect with your body and your heart every day. And just go out in nature, walk barefoot on the earth, maybe sing to the plants or sing to the trees, hug a tree, just, yeah, be in nature more. Nature is everything. We are nature. So when you're feeling down, go out for a walk, go hug a tree.
Thank
Mm,
you, Nina. With these words, I think we say
thank you.
thank you for this session. And our listeners, we thank you, of course, as always. I will write everything down where you can find Nina, where you can find me, and have a look for a
Yes,
great giveaway that Nina and me from Örtfabriken will give to
yes,
you.
that
You
will
will
be on
find
the
it on our
Wild Cacao
Instagram.
Collective Instagram and your Örtfabriken Instagram. So yeah, super excited for that.
Thank you so much, Nina, and I hope I will meet you
Yes, so
in
welcome for a
reality very,
ceremony
very
anytime you're in
soon.
Sweden. Bye bye.